So if you watch anime, you've probably seen that Americans are portrayed as being massive. And I grew up in England, so when I came to America, I noticed the portions they give at restaurants were much bigger. And when it came to breakfast, having a side of pancakes was insane to me. And a lot of people eat these kinds of foods before training, but I think it's much better to eat standard dinner foods for breakfast or early in the day, and eat your standard American breakfast food later in the day if you're bulking, and especially if you're doing a sport also. So the first reason for this is the same reason they say it's not good to doom scroll early in the morning or do any highly rewarding and stimulating activity. It's the same reason why it's bad to eat sugary carbs first thing in the morning, since you haven't really earned it, and it'll mess up your dopamine signaling and leave you unmotivated for the rest of the day, which leads to other bad habits and overall just not being very productive. So that's why if I'm gonna eat something bad or a cheat meal, I do it after my training session or later in the day so it doesn't mess up my dopamine signaling. And also, it'll just taste a lot better, especially if it's after a workout, since it feels like I've actually earned it. Also, if you do something like eating a pancake after a workout, I guess in some sense it is replacing the glycogen you just lost, so you'll recover better. Even if it's with ultra processed sugar that will kill you. Of course, it's probably better to do this with some honey or some fruit though. The other reason is just so I don't have to train with a brick sitting in my stomach. So there are days where I have to train early in the morning, and if I eat a standard American breakfast, I'll probably feel kind of shitty. Which is fine if you're just lifting some weights and you're not doing anything crazy like a hard leg day. But if you have to do something like a boxing or wrestling practice on a stomach full of pancakes, you'll probably feel pretty shitty. And I know this from personal experience. That's why I prefer to eat dinner foods before training or early in the morning, since it just digests and sits in my stomach a lot better. And for this, I like to eat things like potatoes and some beef, or things like chicken and rice. And I don't do this anymore, but if your body is fine with it, some pasta is also good, but I just don't digest pasta very well anymore, so I don't eat it. But I much prefer to eat standard dinner foods before training than standard breakfast foods. The third reason why I like to eat dinner foods for breakfast and breakfast foods for dinner is because when I was bulking in high school, I would just have a massive breakfast like pancakes, eggs, everything. But then it would kind of upset my stomach and I wasn't able to eat later on, so I'd have to have a small lunch because my stomach was messed up. And sometimes it would bleed into dinner. So even though I ate a massive, massive breakfast, I'm eating less calories throughout the day because my stomach was messed up. So that's just another reason why I like to eat the bad stuff at night. So even if my stomach is a little bit messed up, I don't have to go the whole day feeling shitty. But when I do have something like a Muay Thai practice early in the morning, I'm gonna share the things I usually eat. Because personally, I think it's better to have something to eat before training. Even though I do have some friends that prefer to eat nothing before training. So like I said, a lot of the time, I just have my leftovers from dinner and eat that before training. But on Saturdays, I have a session that starts at 8 and I wake up at 7 and usually ends up being like 7:15. So in this case, I usually just pop in 2 dates and then head out. My cousin was the one who actually showed me this because he's in a similar situation where he has to go to the gym right when he wakes up. So this is just perfect because it gives you some energy and it digests really fast. And also, if I'm feeling tired, I'll have some coffee too. And personally, I think England has the best breakfast. The full English would probably be my death row meal. But when it comes to eating breakfast a few hours before a training session, I think the Germans might be onto something. For the German breakfast, it usually starts with some bread. Of course, for the most part, bread in America is Hundescheiße. And I've been learning German and in turn learning a little bit about the German culture. And apparently in Germany, the bread is God tier. But since I'm in the US, I'll just get some sourdough. This way, even if the bread isn't very good, at least it digests a little bit easier. Of course, you can always make your own bread, but that's just not something I want to spend my time doing. But with the bread, I'll eat some dried meat. I eat salami, but over there they eat sausage. And I'll have some cheese with this. I always choose cheddar. Then some cucumbers and tomatoes is standard for Germans. And I like this a lot because with most vegetables, I usually get a little bit gassy. But with cucumbers and tomatoes, I feel fine. But I know they're technically fruits, so yeah. But the last thing I really like about the German breakfast is that they have more than one drink. So usually it's either coffee or tea, and then some water, and then also some juice. And I always add salt on all of the food, just because salt is really good for athletes. And it also helps a lot if you have a cramping problem like I do. So I just really like the German breakfast because you get a lot of variety, which I love. And it takes like 2 seconds to prepare, which is great if you're busy. And when you train after, you have everything you need, like carbs from the bread and the juice, some caffeine from the coffee or tea, The tomatoes and cucumbers are super refreshing, and the meat and the cheese slow down the digestion of everything and give you a little bit of protein. And overall, it's not too heavy. So yeah, if you haven't, I highly recommend trying out the German breakfast, or at least my Americanized version of it. And overall, just saving your cheat meals for later in the day, or at least after your training session, and just trying to eat clean early in the day, or at least before your training sessions. But if you want another video of food, I have a video on 7 foods that will help your athletic performance. And with this channel, my goal is to help athletes and martial artists with their goals. So if it sounds like it will help you, make sure to subscribe. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.